Okay. Well, hi guys. Hi again, and welcome back.
Oh,
Hello. I love it. And welcome back to another episode of What's Next, our series for recent graduates. So today's episode is about all the fun stuff, dating, sex, and relationships. Oh my. so
stuff.
Yes, all the good stuff. So since we've already all done like introductions and things, we don't have to like do that again because I feel like I'm gonna run out of fun facts. I don't know if there are that many. I don't know if there are that many fun facts about me personally.
I'm not that
To
interesting of a person.
I am not that interesting. I am not that interesting of a person to have that many fun facts. So I think we can.
Fascinating.
Sure. So we can just like jump in to what I feel is like the most important part to start with, and that is talking about everybody's favorite thing, virginity.
Yeah.
So I just want to, because I think it's important for us to talk about like what we knew before we did go into college about sex and about virginity, or like what we knew about before we got to college, because I feel like that's an important place to start as far as like the conversation around sex is concerned.
Yeah.
You know, I would love to just jump right in and say that something that like kind of came up in the queer panel episode of this series that I think applies here too is that like what sex is and like what losing your virginity is like such a weird concept because people's definition of sex varies so much. Like what is sex? What is intercourse? What is quote, going all the way? So like as a queer person, like there's not always a clear benchmark for what losing virginity even means. And something that I wish I had known prior to going to college, and I guess I lost my virginity, and I say that in quotes because I think that virginity is just this like concept that's
of course it's not real.
Made up.
I guess I lost my virginity before college, but what I wish I knew is that like it didn't matter. It didn't make me more or less of anything. I guess I went in thinking that like there were like levels to sex and there was like an all the way sex, but I don't think that's actually true.
No, I don't think that's true at all. You know how people will be like, oh, you know, you're still a virgin even if you let them, you know, right in the back door. And I'm like,
You know, the concept of like first base, second base, like
I know
we're not playing baseball.
We're playing baseball.
Baseball is like the world's most boring sport. I can't imagine, but I think that's like very important of the like what constitutes as sex for you, you know, or like what makes you like a virgin or anything like that, even though like we know like that virginity is obviously a social construct and it's not real, and there's no need to ever like lose it or anything like that, you know?
It's not going anywhere.
It's not.
It's not going anywhere.
And it's also the pressure of trying to lose it in college. Like I know some people that didn't, and like fine, they're chilling, skipping, going around town, doing whatever. Like it's not a thing. There's no time limit on it that you have to do. Just do whatever you like want to and feel comfortable with, and like that's just it.
Exactly. Because for me, I remember just like I did lose it before I went to college, but then for a long time when I got there, I wasn't sexually active. And so I felt like, number one, that there was a part of this like college experience that I was missing out on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I wasn't sexually active. And then it also just makes you feel a way about yourself, about like, why am I not sexually active? Why am I not comfortable being that way or anything like that, you know? So I think like it's important to, one, just unlearn like the stigma around like virginity, unlearn the fact that it's a thing that exists, unlearn what you think you know about what sex is going to be like going into college, because it's all ridiculous the way they portray it, and you don't realize it until you get there, the way that they portray it on like movies and television and shit like that. Like, you have to let that go, because that's not going to be your experience. And if you base your experience off of that, you're going to disappoint yourself, because it's just, you're not going to live up to that. And I found myself freshman year a lot trying to live up to that, but unable to get out of this, like, I don't feel comfortable space about sex and about my own body in order to like share it with someone. So that was like really big for me, like the idea of that, because it took a long time for me to find that level of comfort with myself.
That's so true. I'm glad that you're talking about comfort, because like that's so, I mean, it's so important. And I just think it's like, when you go to college, like the most comfortable way is not going to be in a dorm room.
Oh my God.
The first time you do it is not going to be very comfortable. And like, I really just wish that I could have told myself that like, it's nothing special, that you are like,
it's nothing.
I definitely really hyped it up in my head.
That you're not going to be like perfectly natural at
right.
You don't know what you're doing. It's not.
You don't know what you're doing.
You don't know what you like yet.
You exactly
be comfortable. So don't like, honestly, set your bar pretty fucking low.
Set your bar low enough, you will not be disappointed. I think.
I don't mean to say like don't ask what you need. Like, you should ask for what you need and like try to get comfortable.
Right.
I'm not saying like keep your standards low. I'm just saying
be realistic about the situation.
I think that's the way I misconstrued it, Matthew. I think my standards were low when I started doing that.
You want to have high standards, but just like know that it's going to take some time.
Yes, like people don't understand. It's so awkward. It's so awkward sometimes. Like your body is just gonna make weird sounds. Like you have to be used to that idea. It's gonna be messy. Like
a stranger, maybe, or maybe not a stranger. Maybe it's
a
partner. Maybe it's a friend, or maybe it's a total stranger. Like
as long as it's someone that
here I am.
Yeah, as long as it's someone that you're at least comfortable with the idea of, like, well, if it goes south, like, this person at least, like, won't be weird about it, or, like, I'll never have to see that person if it is, like, a complete stranger in that regard, where you're like, okay, well, I can just, like, walk away from this and, like...
Exactly.
Yeah. I think it's just really, really important to remember that, like, college is already very stressful.
Yeah.
And, like I mentioned it a few times, expensive.
Very expensive.
And just, like, you're not, that's not what you're there to do.
Exactly.
And if it is, you're paying a lot of money for sex.
Too much money for sex, because you can get it for cheap.
Yeah, it's just totally not what you're there to do.
Exactly.
Stress, sex, whether it's, you know, with a partner or frankly all by yourself,
right?
It's an amazing stress reliever.
True.
Don't be ashamed of using that for, you know, a relief from the stress. If it is becoming stressful, if you're romantic or not romantic, sexual involvements and entanglement become stressful.
Yes.
Then I think you're missing the point. I think that's a red flag if you're getting stressed out
about the idea of it. Absolutely. Yeah. That's very important. It's very important to learn that about yourself. And since we're on the subject of like that, it just kind of makes me want to like ask all of you guys, then like how did you find your way to coming up with your own like moral code, you know, about like unfeeling, because I know, you know, some people grew up in like Catholic schools and things like that. Okay, so you did, Matthew. So there's a lot of shame around the stigma of sex, you know, or premarital sex rather, or and things like that. That I think it was important for me. I didn't grow up in a Catholic like environment at all, but I just know like there was just so much there was a stigma around having sex in general. Yeah. So like, how do you guys come up with your own moral code if you come from a place like that?
Well, the good thing about college was meeting other open-minded people who thought differently than me, especially people who were upperclassmen and had, been a couple years out of the high school bubble, of the protected living with your parents bubble, and looking up to different media figures and just public figures who were sex positive, who are queer, helped me realize that, just as you said, Mariah, you have to come up with your own kind of moral code. Right. So for me, that began to revolve around like just learning that sex is not bad, and from a sex is not a sin. But then furthermore, learning like, okay, then what is the ethics around sex? And we can get into this later or whenever, but I think that safety and sexual health became part of my moral code.
Definitely.
In terms of communicating and making sure that sex is always consensual, like that's the ethical thing to me, not the having of the sex, but the consent being there and the protection and precautions being there, and having conversations about that, and being able to have conversations with sexual partners or with friends about getting tested. Like, to me, that's the meat and potatoes of ethics.
Yeah.
When it comes to sex, is being healthy, being consensual, safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very important. That's good.
Yeah. I'll say for me, in terms of that like moral code question, I'm a really firm believer in the like, you have a sex life with your partner, various partners, whatever, but I also think that everyone has a sex life with themselves. Like, you have your own personal sex life where it's masturbation or whatever that is for you, where you're constantly finding out things that you like so that you can go into sex with other people knowing what you want to get out of it, knowing what feels good to you. And so kind of like, I feel like a lot of people, I watched things, I was reading stuff, and I was just checking in with myself like, oh, okay, if this makes me uncomfortable, then this is probably not something I would like to engage with somebody else, or like, so a lot of it was just like checking in with myself and seeing like what was appealing to me and what wasn't. And then sexual health is definitely a big part of it.
Absolutely.
I got on that birth control before I got to school at my mom's. I had no intention of asking for it, and I really think, I know that's a tough conversation, but if that's what you're interested, like if you want to be having sex and you want that extra protection, totally speak up for yourself. My mom straight up was like, so this is what's going to happen, like you're going to be taking this pill now, and, and we're going to get that all set up before you go off to school. And I was like, okay.
Sure. That's very good. Yeah, that's important, because I hadn't started birth control before I went to college. And the only reason I did start it in college, it wasn't even for sexual reasons. It was for like other reasons, like other health reasons, which is one of the reasons that women do use several kinds of birth control. But a lot of people don't know that, and I think like, because we've all been talking about it so much, and Cynthia, I'd love for you to like jump in here, because this is your thing. I think it's like, let's just pivot like the conversation to talking about like what I feel is so important, and what I know Cynthia feels is so important.
Yes.
Do not know enough about sexual health. And you don't realize how little you know until you talk to Miss Cynthia Wambua.
Cynthia, take it away.
I'm telling you, Cynthia, please,
Listen,
school us.
STIs and STDs can and probably will ruin your life. No, that's actually scary. But what people don't understand is that STIs and STDs are real. Babies are not the only thing you should be scared of. Honestly, getting pregnant is one of the least worried things, in my opinion, when it comes to sexual health. It's just, I think people don't understand, like, certain things you can get rid of through medication and certain ones you can't. Like herpes, you get that, it's there for life. But a lot of people also don't understand that 80% of Americans have herpes simplex virus 1,
Yes.
Whereas herpes 2 is the genital herpes, and that if you actually go and get tested for the blood test, currently with the test capabilities for a lot of these labs, they can only detect if you have it in your system, whether it's 1 or 2. So a lot of times what they say is don't go in to get tested for 2 unless you actually have like a, I guess like a rash or something like that they can swab in and of itself. So people don't understand like things like that. People don't understand like how often you should actually get tested. I'm a firm advocate of getting tested after every new partner, because that way you're at least able to stay on top of everything. And then if you do happen to have something, you hopefully know exactly who it was from. And if you have their number, you can hit them up and be like, hey, it is what it is, just so that you know. And it's also, it's not even just protecting you, but it's also protecting the other people that you're with. And it's also like peace of mind. That way, every time you get tested, if it all comes back clean, then you can be like, cool. Or if it doesn't, then you can deal with it as soon as possible, because it's even worse to wait until something happens to start dealing with that thing. Condoms, you can get condoms for cheap through your university.
Everywhere.
Through different programs. I know one person, they lied to like a condom company and said, oh, my frat, we're throwing a party, we were looking for free condoms. They got like essentially like a box of condoms for free. So you could like do other things like that. There are so many different organizations. There are so many places, especially in bigger cities, to get tested. You could either go through your insurance, or a lot of times, like especially in Pennsylvania specifically, like each county has specific free STD testing sites for specific days and times. It rotates sometimes between different hospitals to reach more people.
I did not know that.
Yes, no, there's, I can send you a list if you want, for your specific area as well. Like there's so much out there for you that people don't understand. It's just a matter of taking control of your own sexual health. And I'm a firm believer of this, because I know a lot of people that like either are like nurses and like work with people with like sexual health issues, or are like researchers in hospitals that get some of these cases that come back. And I'm like, Lord Jesus in heaven, pray for us all. Because
no, for real though, that's so important, because I think, you know, and it's going to get a little TMI for me, but I think it's important that I go there, because for me, I did not ever get tested until I had a partner text me, say, hey, I have chlamydia, you should probably go and get tested. And like, sure, granted, I probably should not have been having unprotected sex with a person when I knew he wasn't my only partner and I knew I wasn't his only partner. However, in the heat of the moment, I made a mistake. We'll get there later about in the heat of the moment. So whatever, I was like super, super, super nervous about it, but before, I wasn't nervous about it at first, because I was like, there's no way I have this, because I don't have any symptoms, you know, like I feel fine. Like I'm not.
Most people are asymptomatic, and sometimes it takes
exactly
months. And that's another thing too. After every encounter that you think you could have gotten something, wait 1 to 2 weeks, preferably 2 weeks, to get tested, because sometimes if you get tested right after, it doesn't show up in the test.
Exactly. So what happened was I actually did have it. I did have chlamydia, but chlamydia, and people don't know this, is like the silent, you know, it's a silent STI, because there are no symptoms, and men can be carriers for it, and they wouldn't ever know. However, it does, if you have it for too long, it has like, there is evidence that it does lead to infertility. So get treated. But that is one of the ones that is treatable. But the thing is I was so furious. I was so hurt. I was so embarrassed. I was so angry by the fact that I had this. And then she said, you know, because once they figure out, okay, you do have this STI, then they have to test you. They have to do one of those tests where they test you for like syphilis, gonorrhea, and then they have to test me. Then they had to test me for HIV, and I never had an HIV test. So they had to do one of those rapid 20-minute.
Or did you do? Oh, you did the mouth one.
Yeah, it was one of the rapid tests. So
you can get a rapid test, I think, after, if it's blood, you can get a rapid HIV test after 28 days of possible exposure.
Yeah.
But you can also get mouth ones. I know they're starting that up in like the CVS Minute clinics in New York City.
I did not know that.
One for the mouth after 6 months of exposure.
Right.
So that way it should be prevalent enough in your system that you can actually just get a swab within your mouth and just get tested that way. And it shows up within 20, I think it's like 20 minutes, and you just in the room with the doctor until you got your results back.
Yeah, that's what happened to me. I was sitting out in the waiting room waiting for the results of the rapid HIV test to come back. And I remember it being like the scariest 20 minutes of my life. I was there alone. I was feeling so many emotions, but mostly I was just so embarrassed. Like I felt all this guilt and this shame around things I did not know. And I think that's something that we need to like destigmatize about like about getting tested. Like it's so important to get tested after every sexual partner, and getting tested shouldn't be something that's as terrifying as it was for me. Like it should have been something that I was doing regularly if I was having sex, and if I was having unprotected sex, like, which I don't recommend unless you're, unless you can account for all of your partners and all of their partners, and like unless there's like a record of all of that and y'all are getting tested regularly, I would not recommend having unprotected sex. But again, I made a mistake. We can't lie and say it don't feel different, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I will say, going off of that like not to be cheesy, but like knowledge is power, and
it
like
really is.
Getting tested is empowering. Like it was very frightening for you to get that call.
It was.
And but I feel like you're in a much better position, even if you're the person who has to make the call. Yeah. You at least are making that call and having the information that you have.
Yes.
Probably have a plan in place for what you're going to do next. Mm-hmm. I think it's really empowering, and like, I don't know. I always make my little testing days a little treat, go maybe buy myself something after.
Yes.
Or because I'm doing friends.
I'm doing something good for myself. I'm taking care of myself. It's a good thing.
And invite friends with you too. Like I'm a firm believer that like, let's say you are going to get tested, you can text your friends and be like, hey, I'm on my way here. You want to come with? Like I've had plenty of friends be absolutely terrified. Actually, a lot of people tell me about some they're like scares, and I've heard lots and lots of stories, which I think is why like I've became so knowledgeable, because I'm like, if so many people are coming to me because they know it's not the craziest thing I've heard, I at least should be able to give them some information back.
Right.
Yeah.
But essentially, there's been so many people that have been like, I'm absolutely terrified because like you get tested, and if it comes back positive, then it's real.
Right.
So it's a matter of just being
real the whole time, though.
It really is, though. It never stops being real.
So I think it's just being like, if you have a friend that's scared, be like, hey, I'll come with you, or like I'll get tested with you, even if you probably don't need to.
Right.
Be like, hey, I'll hold your hand, right. Or like, if they're afraid to put their like parents down as an emergency contact, you could even just be like, I could be your emergency contact. Like I'll pick up the phone,
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Like, things of that nature. So just be as supportive as you possibly can, because like you said, Mariah, the fear.
It really is a fear, though. Like it's terrifying, and it shouldn't. It really doesn't.
It doesn't have to
be. It doesn't need to be a terrifying thing. But since we are on that subject of something that I think like that's very important, I do want to hear you guys like thoughts on like sexual safety. Obviously, you have heard what happens when you are not safe. Yeah. But I do think sexual safety does extend into other areas, like Camille, you were talking about, I remember just like only doing things that feel good and things like that. So if you guys want to go ahead and like just give me your thoughts on how we can have safe sexual lives.
Personally, I think openness and communication is great.
Yes.
The partner that I'm with now, who I will probably be with forever, one of the first times we were like about to have sex with each other, I straight up asked, like, I said, I recently got tested, so I know that I'm chill. What is your situation? And, it was a great conversation, but he also made a point to be like, no one's ever like asked me that before. And I was like, yeah, I don't know about everybody else, but this is information that personally for me, I need to like keep doing this. So yeah, just not being afraid to like be open and talk to someone who you're about to be intimate with anyway. If you can't feel like you can't have that dialogue to protect yourself.
Yeah.
Then I feel like that's a red flag of like, okay, maybe you don't all the way feel completely safe around this person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Having that before a conversation is going to really level the playing field for everyone and make everyone go in, feel comfortable, hop into the game. Okay, disgusting. I hate that I went in that direction. But also during conversation, like just, when you first start, you're kind of just trying to figure out like how to connect with each other physically and being able to like just in the middle of having sex be like, hey, like, can we try this, or can we move this way, or and just asking, requesting what you need is number one. It's very, it might feel awkward at first, and maybe it will come out awkward at first, but honestly it can be very sexy and it can be very fun and enjoyable to talk to one another during it. It doesn't have to be just like silent and just like it doesn't just
it doesn't I think like we forget that sex is like awkward. It's very
ridiculous.
It's such a ridiculous thing that we
like
do.
A variety show.
It's just and you're so afraid. You're so afraid of it being awkward because you want it to be sexy like you see in the movies. And I cannot stress this enough that is not what it's like. There are sounds, there are the fluids, there is sweat. Ain't nobody doing it under the covers. It's hot as hell in here. First of all, let's end that right here and there. But what I think is so important to what you just said, Matthew, and to what you mentioned also, Camille, is just about like, you have to just let them know. Like every time I have sex now, I used to be so afraid of it because I was so afraid that like if I set boundaries that the person I was with would not want to have sex with me anymore, which I now realize is ridiculous because I shouldn't be having sex with someone who isn't going to respect my boundary or who's uncomfortable with me setting boundaries. But every time I have sex, before we even get going, before the clothes come off, I'm like, this is my bottom line. You can't do this, or that. And if you do, we're done. Like, you can don't do that. Like there's certain things that like I just know about myself, and this has happened through trial and error, that I'm not comfortable with, and so I won't even let a sexual partner try. And who knows, that could change in the future. Who knows what and it can. Like you don't always have to be feeling one way about one thing. But I think what's important, especially for women, is to know that pleasure isn't something that is like that has to like elude you. You are not there just to be a vessel for a man. You deserve to get off too. You know what I mean? And I think I did not know that going into college. I thought I'm just supposed to lay here, and even if it doesn't feel good, even if there's no finale for me, that's just what it's like. And that's not the truth.
Yeah.
You do not have to stay in any sexual situation that's not pleasing to you. You do not have to do anything that makes you uncomfortable. And you don't have to be afraid to say, hey, I like it like this. You know, can you do that? Or can you try? Yeah. Like, it's okay to make adjustments during sex because no one's perfect at it. There's no one who's just going to know what to do. And I think people don't realize that. And that's part of the fear, too, for a lot of people, is that fear of the unknown, of what if I get into this and it doesn't feel like what I thought it was going to feel like? Then what do I do? You know what I mean? So that's why it's so important to like set boundaries. You know, it's so important to be open and have that conversation about that, because then it'll make, I know it seems like, oh, this is not super sexy to be talking about, have you got tested? But think about all the things that it eliminates in your mind once you do have that conversation.
Relax.
It really does help you relax. It really does help you relax. So
get rid of this idea of sexy too.
Oh my God, please.
Whatever you think that is, child, whatever you think that is,
please.
You don't know yet. Like I've been thinking this whole conversation, like the first time I ever had sex was, even up to that point, one of the least sexy things I had ever done. Like it was not, I was like, oh, I feel like we just like have definitely done more exciting things than this, but cool. I'm glad we got that out of the way.
Right.
But what you think is sexy is probably not what's actually sexy to you, or like that conversation beforehand. That's hot. Like
that really is.
Talk. I can't stress enough how important it is to just like feel comfortable talking to the person that you're gonna have sex with.
That's like also, so important.
like having conversations just with so many people across my life, it seems like sometimes the sexiest things are like not the actual sex. It's like the things around it or like leading up to it. That's yeah, you know,
because once you get going, it's like it's pretty much just you know. Once you get going. Guys, that wasn't sexy. You didn't like that?
I needed that actually.
I loved it. And
yeah, I'm a firm believer of
perfect at sex. I condone that noise.
Yeah, like I'm a firm believer. Don't go off of like what the movies and the TV shows say, but read a lot of books. There's a lot of like written stuff out there, and a lot of it's more diverse than what is shown on like TV and in movies. That I feel like a lot of people like, because I know a lot of people that have started like reading more, and they're like, it's actually helped me in the long run because it's like
much it does.
Yeah, even like little phrases or like little scenes. You're like, oh, okay, maybe I would like to try this, rather than like seeing it and you're like, I have a 60-inch TV. This is making me uncomfortable. You know, like
yes. And I just want to say, I want to go on record to say, as a person who has slept with men young and old, a lot of them could benefit from a little bit of reading, which brings me to our next topic. Which brings me to
books and reading here. Anyway,
which brings me to we are advocates for reading first and foremost. We are advocates for education. We stand reading. We stand education.
I do have to admit that when you first said reading, even though Cynthia just got done talking about books, I thought you were saying like after sex, if men do bad, you need to like read them.
Well, you do. Well, I'm an advocate for that as well.
I would say certainly that. I agree.
But I'm an advocate for doing it during sex. I'm like, if this isn't working, please stop. I'm like, actually, this isn't good for me anymore. You got to go. I'm an advocate for kicking motherfuckers out, you know? If it's not working for me, you gotta go. But I think then that's a good segue into our next topic about relationship.
Oh, I don't know about this one.
Guys, let us talk about, since Cynthia, you brought up, you know, how you know, and since we've all talked about how, you know, movies and television really like glorify this, we need to talk about this high school boys versus college boys, you know.
So can I go on record saying something that's like really very controversial?
Go ahead.
If you have a boyfriend senior year of high school and you're both going into college, consider breaking up before college starts. It's just my take. It's just my hot take. Going to college single. I
really don't think that's a hot take, though. I really don't. I'm an advocate for that. You know, break up with him. Break up with her. Break up with them.
I went into college with a boyfriend.
As did I.
We were broken up by week 2.
Goodness.
With that.
Yeah. We made it to October. That's October.
I think the longest I've heard is like they made it to maybe Thanksgiving.
Damn.
Maybe.
See, and Matthew, if you don't mind me asking, how long were you with that person before?
Relatively long for high school relationship. I want to say, I want to say 8 months.
Yo, it's literally saying that is not long enough to like start a new phase of life with a person when you're still in the first phase of a relationship. And like, I was like, oh, we just don't know how to do this all the way. And now we're trying to do this on top of a million other new things. Like
a million other things. A million.
Full-time job of being a college student.
Yes.
And being trying to have a relationship.
Yes.
That was from before, from your life is just not super reasonable. And listen, like if you're 18 watching this and you're just like, but I'm so in love, you know, honey, go ahead and make your mistakes.
That's okay. Like sometimes we have to learn the hard way.
Because I learned from that experience. I did. I learned a lot about myself and I grew, baby. I grew, but
yes.
Consider going into college single.
Mm-hmm. It's just easier. It's just easier. Like it's easily my biggest regret of college. Like my freshman year has a huge stain on it. Just because I spent a lot of it being really sad. I spent a lot of it fighting with a boy. I was like, And I was at my dream school doing the thing that I wanted to do. And that is like, I think it's really important to remember that college is very difficult, and any relationships that you're going to have need not add to that.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
If the relationship is hard, then maybe it's too much for this. Like it shouldn't be that hard.
And I'm going to say we can extend that to friendships as well.
Yes.
Because what I am an advocate of is like, do not hold on to things that are not serving you. If it is not serving you in love, if it is not serving you in life, if it's not, you got to let it go. And I think people are always afraid of that because they're like, this person is from this phase of my life, or this person has always meant this much to me. And that love can stay there, but the relationship can go like the two people can go like this. There is nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I'm talking a lot, sorry, but
no,
just because
please.
This experience really did like shape this woman that you see today.
There you go.
But like I came to college. My very best friend was living across the hall from me. My boyfriend was living like in the other building, and I just thought that I was the luckiest girl in the world, and like I was gonna have the best time because of that. And
oh yeah, you were like, literally
both of those relationships kind of suffered just because we all were not able to serve each other in the way that we did before all of this.
Exactly.
And I'll even say, like, me and that friend, we didn't talk too much through college. Now that college is over, we are great and reconnecting and talking because we just needed something different at the time. And that's gonna happen in all your relationships. And it's fine. It's totally a part of like the growing.
It really is. Yeah. It's a part of the growing. And I think that's important, just like, about how to take ownership of your own life, of the relationships in your life, and to let go of things that aren't serving you. And also just to start to, I think for me, when I was 19 versus now when I'm like 23, like you think how much could change in that time, but so much changes. But I think I'm a lot less like rigid as to what I think dating is now. I'm a lot less like, judgmental of a person about certain things that I was, because when I was 19, I was very idealistic about what a relationship had to be, what dating had to be, what it had to entail, and how money factored into all of that, how time and things factored into all of that. Because when you're 19, and this isn't to say I'm still not self-centered, but you're very much like, if you're not about me all the time and this and that, like it's so cut and dry. And then you realize life doesn't happen like that. Like it happens in these spaces of gray. And so you have to let that, filter into your relationship a little bit and filter into the relationships in your life a little bit. You have to understand that people aren't being uncommunicative because they hate you. Like it's not all about you. Most times it isn't about you at all. And you have to start factoring in the fact that people are at their own, always fighting their own battles. So you can't be so self-centered about communication when it comes to relationships in that way. Now, there are reasons to there are red flags when it comes to like communication and relationships that you need to pay attention to.
Really a red flag. Let's talk red flags.
Let's talk red flags.
I historically cannot see them.
Oh my God. I pretend I do not see.
I would like to say this before starting. I've never been in a relationship before, but that's probably because I'm the type of person that at the sign of a first red flag, that I don't need it.
That's a good way to be.
That it's like, no, this is not. Whether like I'm not going to go out with this person or I'm not going to hook up with this person. Like, for red flags.
That's a good way to be. I wish I could be like that, Cynthia. However, I'm the kind of girl. Let me tell you, and I have told you. I have told you. I'm the kind of girl who's like, oh, he only calls me at 3 a.m. I guess that's the only time he's free. Oh, he pretends he doesn't know me when he sees me on campus. Oh, maybe he didn't see me all those times when I like waved at him. Oh, things that are just like completely like, girl, we could not be waving at you more that you need to let go of this person. You know what I mean?
And like, not to bring it back to like reading or anything, but like, I love reading. But like, because of that, like whenever I say red flag, I'm kind of like, I could deal with this, or I could read a story and live vicariously through that. Like I'm okay with not being the person that goes through that experience. Like I'm okay with reading it, feeling that emotion, shedding a tear. Literally.
That's a red flag.
Like, I'm totally okay with being like, maybe I want this type of love story today, and just finding a book with that love story, reading it, and being like, that's great for them, and like move on with my day. Open up the book when I want.
Books.
Like,
we have to stand, you know.
On the subject of the red flags, I think it's important to note that like red flags are different for everybody. I think it's really important to know what it is you want and what it is you were looking for. There were times in my college experience where I was very dead set on being single, and a red flag might have looked like, oh, this boy likes me too much. Like that could be a red flag for that.
That was a lot of red flags for me.
Yeah, but then when and then I eventually got to a point where I made a decision like, okay, like the next person that I deal with, I think I need it to be a little bit something more. And then when I knew that, I was like, great, now I know what I don't want. And now I know what those red flags look like now.
Yes.
So I think it's really important to just be very honest with yourself about what you want. People are not honest with themselves.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you have people crying over a boy that you don't even like. And it's like, you like him. Like maybe that's issue.
One of my biggest issues when it came to dating and when it came to hooking up and things like that, and this should have been a red flag to me. It was like, I never wanted to talk to the person that I was sleeping with that much, because I'm like, if you talk too much, you're going to say something that's going to turn me off, and my vagina is going to go like, and we're done here. Once she's gonna dry right on up, and then you gotta go. And that should have been a red flag that maybe this is not the kind of person you want inside of you. This kind of person that you don't want to talk to.
Red flags.
Guys, what are your favorite red flags that you ignored?
If someone doesn't ever want you to like know their friends or know friends, like if it's just like this isolated thing, that to me was a red flag.
Yes, that's a big one.
I love isolated things, but I compartmentalize way too much. That's a flaw I have. But it's like when I guess when they're like too ready to like share their whole world and like everyone in their world,
that's a red flag for me.
Yes. Wait,
that's a big, because
like someone who is like so ready to spill all their.
I hate it. I hate it. Don't tell me about your life.
To their friends, like right off the bat, things like that. I'm like, I'm like, I think I'm. Especially with African parents, because my parents are like, don't bring nobody around unless you're gonna get married to them. Like that's so I'm very much like, I don't want to meet your family unless like this is gonna be a serious thing. If it's we both know it's not gonna be, I don't want to meet them. Like
I don't care.
And I think it's also like that boundary thing of like also like when they've crossed my boundaries in like that regard, that I'm like, no. Like we've been over. So definitely like, especially if they cross your boundaries. Like I know a lot of people that are like, I told my boyfriend I don't want him talking to his ex-girlfriend, and then like a week later he's talking with his ex-girlfriend, and they're like, oh, but I gave him the okay, and I'm like, but he's what? Like that in and of itself is low-key him crossing your boundaries.
He's testing to see if what he can get away with, you know, and that's the problem. Don't test me. I don't like it.
No,
I don't like it.
Do I look like the SATs? No.
Come on, I didn't even do well on them. We're not gonna go there. I don't play that shit. Like that's for me, like immediately, like, and I have been in like situations with partners, and I think this is important to talk about because like I'm like a very staunchly, like my STI scare made me very staunchly a condom person, and I'm always with partners like, sorry, you gotta wear it. Sorry, you can't do this, this, and that with me. And I had a partner once who just took it off. And I didn't know.
It's very upsetting.
Took it off. And then after he's like, oh, I guess I didn't even need it. And I was like, wait a minute, what?
My lawyer is on the phone.
Wait a minute, what?
That is very, very, very common, especially for some reason in college.
It's so ridiculous.
Really not okay. And
it is actually very the opposite of okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. At that point, it doesn't become consensual because you
exactly
very not
seizing
there.
Protection, and then they cross that line
and don't use it.
Exactly. No,
and don't use it. And if you're having trouble understanding consent at any point, if it stops feeling good to you, you don't have to keep doing it. And if they keep doing it, then it's something else.
Yes.
And it's no longer consent.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I honestly, like, I want to see a shift in the conversation. Like, let's, like, talk to your friends about, like, why it's not okay to do things like that.
Right.
What real consent is, you know?
Yes.
And even, like, not even talking with your friends, but also, like, you could even find, like, online communities, like, of course there's good and bad online communities, but I know for me, like, my definitions of, like, what consent is and, like, protection and even, like, what sex is and things like that, I discovered through, like, Tumblr and, like, just people that I follow.
And that's important.
Yeah. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I learned so much from that.
Literally. But it's just, like, those people, they were just talking about, like, their experiences, like, and posting, like, the tag of, like, Tumblr posts in 2012 and stuff.
Right.
Like, I didn't have anybody in my life that I could openly talk to about it.
Which is important that you have someone. So it's good that you found that community. And I think it's important that we talk about, like, the value of that, of having an outside opinion, like a friend that you can go to when you feel like you have on those rose-colored glasses and you cannot see those red flags, or you're just so head over heels. Just like, it's so important to have someone, and sometimes I'm always that friend, but it's so important to have a friend who's like, girl,
who can check you, somebody who can, like, just be straight up with you.
Yes.
Meet that guy or that girl that you're seeing. Or if it's not someone that you want your friends to meet, because it's not like a relationship, it's a hookup, that you can, like, tell what's going on, and they can be like, okay, that sounds crazy.
That's exactly, because sometimes you can't see it.
In the beginning, you can't see it, or, like, you're new to dating or new to, like, you know, hooking up and stuff, and you don't know what you want. You don't know what your red flags are. You know, run with your friends. Keep your friends first. And run.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm firmly about that. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Relationships can be very isolating, and I feel especially in a college space. College, I know for everyone watching, I know everyone's telling you're about to go to the real world. You were about to go to some, like, weird in between place.
Yeah.
Honestly, where, like, societal rules are, like, kind of warped and bent, and, like, it's just such a fake real world.
It really is.
And I think it's really easy to get into relationships and be really isolated and alienate friends and other people, like, community. I think you need that group. You need other people.
Yes.
You know, you need other people. You're paying. That's a part of the experience that you're paying all that money for.
Yes.
Is to meet a whole bunch of other people. Maybe a relationship is not the thing that. Maybe a relationship is not the best way to be getting that full experience. You know, maybe it's not beneficial to you to be spending so much of your time, or have to honestly allocate or a lot of some time to somebody else to just be with them. It might not work for you.
And that's okay. Like, you don't need to have a relationship in college. You don't need to have sex in college.
You don't need to have any of it.
You don't
need to have any of it.
You're
gonna be okay.
Look at Cynthia. She chose to read books, and now she has a real job, and she's a successful adult woman.
Exactly. And you know what? Sometimes that's what it takes. You know, so if you ain't got nobody else in your life standing to you now, do not go here looking for a husband or a wife. You know, I advise against it. I'm sure some people are like, oh yeah, like I married my college sweetheart and blah, blah, blah. Just imagine what they put up with in the interim.
Like, also, like, really take into account, like, how much time you have. Like, I 30 hours a week. I was doing almost 20 credits a semester. I don't have the time or the energy or the mental capacity to deal with anything extra. So I was
anything extra that you don't allow into your life. And there's too much unknown with other people. So the things that you are allowing to be a part of your already hectic schedule should be for pleasure. Should bring you joy. And if it is not bringing you joy, you got to let it go. Anything that is not bringing you joy in life, that's not serving you anymore, you got to let it go. And that be it friendships, be it relationships, be it hookups, let it go. Yeah. Be it anything that's not working, you got to let it go, no matter how hard it seems to let it go.
There's so much to do. There's so much going on around you now. Like,
so many books to read.
Plenty of books to read. A whole library full of them. You gotta read. You better read them books. Okay, Cynthia's not playing.
My box is stacked. Like, stacked.
Come on. Come on. But I think we need to talk because we're getting close to the end of our conversation here. So it's important for us to talk about what I think has become so prevalent when we talk about college, and that is, hookup culture, dating app culture, and just like that whole experience. Because for me, that was what a lot of my dating experience came from, was this dating app culture and like hookup culture and things like that. You know what I mean? So I just want to first of all just demystify the idea of having sex for pleasure. Like, it should feel good. And if it don't,
empowering to be like, I want to have sex, so I'm gonna go on this app and I'm gonna that's you choosing to do something for yourself,
for yourself.
J'adore.
And a lot of I get a lot of the backlash around it, being like, this is a stranger and all of this, but there are ways to do it to be safe. Because for me, my thing,
let's list it out.
Yeah, you gotta for me, it was always, hey, I'm gonna text my friends, like, I met this guy, he's coming over. I'm gonna be like, because I'm the type who I'm like, I don't go to other people's houses, because like, once I'm done, I like for you to leave and I like to go to sleep. I'm sorry, I like for you to leave. I like to pee and then I like to go to sleep.
Tell them about it.
That's the important part. You cannot skip that peeing, girl. You do not want to be burning. But
it can lead to urinary tract infections, which are not fun.
You do not want a UTI, but so I don't like to go to other people's houses because it makes me feel more safe knowing where things are in my own house. And so I would always have a system where I'd be like, hey guys, text the group chat, like, hey guys, I have this guy coming over. I'm going to text you when he leaves. So if I don't text you by like 1 a.m., come check on you, girl, because I lived alone. So I was like, I'm gonna need somebody to check in on me to make sure that this person doesn't like kill me. Unfortunately, that is a thing that you gotta worry about, because there are some weirdos out there. But you don't need to be so terrified of it that you stay away from it, because it's completely fine to meet people that way.
Yeah, if you're doing it safely and on your own terms, I think it's great. Like, I did, like, similar to you, Mariah, I had like just like a set of, not rules, but like things I knew to make me comfortable. I also was someone who preferred to have people over at my own place. I was personally not a fan of sleepovers, and I had that. It just wasn't for me. But I watched a lot of people I know be like, I just got done having sex and now I have a man stuck in my bed or something. And I was like, what do you mean? It's your bed. Yeah. There's a lot of rules in this like dating culture of college, or like things that are in place that make it seem okay for you to be treated like shit.
No.
Which is like not okay. You deserve to be treated well. And like, I think that's something to always keep reminding yourself as you go through these interactions, or like experience these new experiences with dating and sex.
And fuck all that bullshit around like having a set, like, phrases to make them get out. If you want a person to leave your house, get the fuck out. Is your Uber on the way? You gotta go stand on the porch. Like, they gotta leave. When you want them to not be there anymore, they need to leave. I don't play that shit at all.
Like, hey, I'm ready to call it and go to bed. Like,
yeah, and that means get out, and they must leave, or it's gonna be a different conversation. Okay, like, we're not gonna play that. You don't need to be that person who's like, oh, but I don't want to upset him. If that's a red flag. If that kind of thing upsets him, then call it.
Super weird.
Then call it.
Going to sleep at his own house or their own house is upsetting to them. That doesn't make any sense.
I wouldn't even have sex with a person like that because I'm worried about what he living like. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's okay to go beforehand to be like, listen, when this is done,
you gotta go.
You gotta go.
Yes.
And like, if they're like, sure, then like, okay. It's just like really setting those ground rules. Even something like, I know a lot of people, especially when it comes to dating apps, prefer to like text the person for a while, maybe Snapchat them for a while, or like FaceTime them if they have iPhones.
Right.
Them to like meet them and hang out, or like even just like hang out with them before they do that.
Yeah, which is like fine.
Figure out what would make you the most comfortable, especially in that situation, if you do choose to go the route of dating apps. Or you could also just be like, dating apps aren't for me. I was that person where I'm like, I hate this.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't want to text you and ask you how your day is. Like, I don't.
Because I don't care. Because you're not a person I know, so I don't care.
Like, I recognize that I'm funnier in person, not over messages. So I'm like, the jokes I'm saying, they're not connecting. So like, this is just.
And you probably just think I'm a bitch. However, if you heard it coming out of my mouth, you'd get it. You'd get it. So it doesn't translate all the time, you know. And you don't have to be good at dating apps. Like, you don't have to. That doesn't have to be a thing. Like, you don't have to be so witty and funny online. I know a lot of us are, but you don't have to be good at that sort of thing. Just because it's like, you know, the culture has become so centered around that. If you're a face-to-face kind of person, if that's how you, if other people don't drain you and that's how you get your energy, run with that, you know? Like, don't be ashamed of like being the kind of person who craves a connection. Because I think a lot of times what people think is that they have to be, you know, emotionless. They have to be like, you know, all this kinds of things to fit into the culture. But if you know that's the kind of person you are, and you have to be honest about that too. Like, don't be afraid to be honest about what brings you joy, what turns you on about things like, and there's so much shame around that. You know what I mean? Yeah. Which I think is ridiculous.
Yeah, and don't think that dating apps are the only way to like have a dating life or a sex life. I mean, so
exactly.
many dates I went on were like someone that I met somewhere and connected with, or someone that a friend introduced me to, that a friend set me up with, even.
Right.
That can all happen too. You can put yourself out there and tell your friends like, hey, I'm interested in dating. Like, if you think you know anyone for me.
Right. Absolutely. Be open.
And a lot of times it'll just happen. College is like I said, it's a fake real world. Like, you still are being put in situations where you're going to meet people.
Right.
Like, I met my partner at a party in college.
Yeah.
And that's how we met. And that's going to be the story forever. And it was fine. And it was great. And stuff like that will happen all the time. Like, if you are going in and you're interested in dating, don't fret. You will be meeting people. If there's one thing you do in college, you will be meeting folks.
Yeah.
And I think since we're like on the subject, we should talk about partying, about parties in college, you know? What a good time about partying, and but just about like what what safety looks like in those kinds of situations. Cause
I think like we talked in the beginning about like your own set of like what works for you and what doesn't.
Right.
Your own like decisions about safety and protection and all of that. Like, don't let that all go out the window just because you've had a couple of drinks. And I guess that's easier said than done.
Sure.
There's just some way to remind yourself of like, even if you kind of just like keep that in mind at the beginning of the night, like, okay, if there is the possibility of having sex, I'm gonna just like stick to my guns and have condoms with me or whatever you need to do.
Always bring them. Don't ever expect for them to have them, because you'll be disappointed every time.
Yeah, be prepared.
And if you're going out like with friends, maybe like have or designate a friend, or like maybe your friend group, like my friend group, we did like a rotation where like every time any of us would like go out or something, like one would just be like the mom of the night, and most of the times I would work the next morning, so I'd be like, all right, I'm the mom of the night, and just like look out for everyone, make sure like everyone's okay, make sure everyone
was never the mom.
Yeah, no, I was your mom plenty of times.
Never the mom.
I was always the mom, but I liked being the mom because I was that person where I was always able to have fun, but I was having fun because I was like, my friends are safe.
Right.
So we can all have fun together. We don't need to like worry.
Get you a Cynthia. That's what you need. You're gonna party. Make sure you got a Cynthia around.
Like, I'm eagle eye. Like, I'm that person that's like scouring the crowd. Like, are we good? Are we good? Any sign of trouble? I'm like, hey girls, let's go to Dairy Queen. You know, let's get out.
Because trouble lurks at these parties, you know?
Yeah.
There are those people who are there specifically to prey on people whose, you know, defenses are significantly lowered.
And even if there's somebody that you don't know and you see a situation happening, I have done this plenty of times.
Absolutely.
Speak up about it. Or if somebody's getting like bothered by somebody, and you can like they either don't want to be in that situation, or they're inhibited, not able to like say exactly what they want or what they don't want. It's okay to go up and be like, hey, what's up? I haven't seen you in a while. Or like,
sometimes you got to do that for women. especially
not even women, also men.
Everybody,
like random freshmen on the sidewalks of the streets of Philadelphia at 2 a.m. I watched a kid back that I've never seen before.
Yeah.
He oh my gosh, he was so drunk, but he was by himself, and me and my friends were like, we'll figure out where he lives, what his walked him back to his dorm. It took 45 minutes because he was stumbling so much.
Because he didn't know where he was at.
Yeah, but we were like, hey, are you okay? Like, it's okay to like also take care of other people around you that you don't know. And speak about it, because you never know like where that situation can go. So even just have mind of like, hey kid, like just be that person. Like,
absolutely.
For other people as well.
You have to look out for people, because it could just as easily be you. It has been me. I've never been in a situation where I was like that unsafe, because I would never, I just like, I can't be that alone when I feel myself getting to that point. So I make sure I have friends around. But sometimes you get in situations like I like to wander off. When I get very drunk, I just start traveling. I want to see what's out there. And so
I have that mom friend that's like, okay, where'd she go? Where is she? I followed Mariah down the block many a times, where I'm like, where's she? Why is the door open? Where'd she go?
I'm just gone. I just left. So you need someone who can look out for you, because, like I said, people don't always have the best intentions, and you can't always spot them as easily as you would think. They can seem very unassuming, very like low key, but when they see a woman or a person just get to that point, they pounce. And you just have to be like there for someone like that. You know what I mean? Like it's important, because I'm not going to say it's not fun. Like I love partying. I love drinking. I miss it dearly. I miss it dearly right now. Like I love the club. I loved partying with all of my friends and like doing all of that shit. It was fun. And I'm not going to say that it was that most of the time, like you have to be so afraid. Like your parents, that's one of the biggest things my mama did before I went. She was just like, don't leave your drink alone. She was very, and I'm an advocate for that for obvious reasons, because you don't realize when you get roofied, like it's not just about, there's so many side effects that happen the next day or the next couple of days after you get roofied that you don't even realize. Like it really fucks up your body, and people are that gross that they would do that. I've never like personally, thank God, up until this point, it has not happened to me, but I do know people it has happened to. So it is real that people are doing that. But you don't have to go into it with like this incredible fear of like, if I go out and I party, something bad is definitely going to happen to me. Because most times it doesn't. Most times the worst thing that happens is you fall down some stairs and you skin your knee. Like
you fall down your stairs and you skin your knee.
I fall down my stairs and I skin my knee. Those times that was the worst thing that happened to me. Or maybe you just get too drunk and you overspend, and now you eating rice and beans all week.
Oh my God.
Sometimes.
And I think also too, when it comes to party culture in college, you don't have to go out all the time.
Oh, absolutely.
And also, I'm a firm believer of don't go out unless it's with people that you're 100% comfortable with.
Absolutely.
Or don't go to a party that you're not comfortable with going. Like I was never into frat culture.
I could not.
I was the mom of the night, and I was like, I never need to come back. I was there for maybe 30 minutes, and I was like, I never need to come back here. I don't. I really don't. This is
so jealous.
For me. And then from there, I only ever went to like house parties that like my friends were hosting, or like my friends were hosting, that like I already had known the person for a little bit that was hosting it.
Yes.
Things like that. Like you don't have to do things that are completely out of your comfort zone. And it's okay to be like, no,
go to frat parties.
Yeah, you don't have to do anything.
You don't got to do nothing.
And also sometimes a party can even just be like 6 friends hanging out. Like that in and of itself would be a party. It doesn't need to be like a huge rager.
A lot of times later in college, that's what it became. Just a bunch of us just sitting around and drinking, because you kind of like, I'm not going to lie, I feel like freshman year, you really do wear yourself out a little bit.
You burn out. I was going to say, it is a tiring lifestyle that you are not used to as a teen kid coming to like a place. And I can speak for myself. Like my freshman year, I definitely got to a point where I was not having fun, but I was like, it's Thirsty Thursday. Like, we gotta go.
Right.
No, we gotta go. We gotta do it.
We do not need to go.
We do not.
Same thing with the parties, because a lot of like TV and stuff depictions of college are really flawed. I do think one thing they get kind of annoyingly right is this like weird like going like there is this air of like, am I supposed to leave with someone at this party, or am I supposed to? It's like a very hunty type of like nature. Like, I mean, girls getting in free. Baby,
come on.
Yeah, like it's just like stuff like that. Like, if I
liked it,
wasn't comfortable with it, and when I stopped doing that, I was having so much more fun. I was able to meet people that shared my actual same interests, and able to actually like have the best time for all that money.
Yes,
I was paying to be there.
Absolutely. Because I think we should all go around, and do our little ending ritual now, and just like say then how we made it out alive in this culture that's so much around, partying and things like that. And I can start. I think for me, it was a process. Like, I had to learn to prioritize myself and really listen to what I liked. It would really listen to myself, thinking about what I liked and what I definitely didn't like. So for me, it was setting boundaries in relationships that really helped me thrive, or, semi-thrive in that situation.
Mm-hmm. I think for me, it was learning that I have got to take care of myself.
Absolutely.
I want to be able to have healthy relationships romantically and with my friends. So I had to take time to be alone.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah. I think for me, it was definitely reading. It was definitely...
We love books!
And a good book.
Literally. Across America.
It was definitely reading. It was definitely just like learning more about things like health-wise and just like in life-wise by talking with people and just communicating with people, and then setting boundaries and being like, no, I'm not going, or like, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
That's how I made it out. But yeah, lots of reading. Of reading.
That's important.
I just kind of like rejected the whole idea of the culture, I guess. Like, I got to a point where I was very like dead set on moving at my own pace. Being really honest about things that happened to me, because I came in that terrible relationship that I was in. And I've like, to this day, like, I just feel terrible about that time. Like, my whole entire first semester of college is like, was spent being really sad. And so the rest of the time I was like, I'm not, like, I refuse to do that again. And then, so like, I came in that relationship, I was single for most of college. And then by senior year, I got into the relationship I'm in now. And what was great about that is like, there was a lot of people, like our talking stage and whatnot was very long. and there were people all around us being like, you guys are dating. And I was like, he's not my boyfriend. Like, stop trying to tell me what this is. Right. Stop trying to tell me what to do. We are talking for 7 months, and that's how it's going to be. Like, and we will make it one. Yeah. And we will, and it was just infinitely better. Like, you just have to honor yourself.
Right.
In all of these relationships, you should always be putting yourself first and foremost.
Absolutely.
And this college time is just time that it's yours. It's expensive. You paid for it. Enjoy it. Don't do anything that's going to make it feel less good than it needs to be.
Of course.
Period.
Yeah, that's like very, very important, So, wow, guys, this was a great conversation. And next week is our last episode. I know, I can't believe it went by so fast, but it's been like such a great time. So as usual, you can find this on our YouTube page. And you can also follow all of us on social media, and we'll link all that down below. And you can find it at our respective websites, cannedgoodsmag.com and at texturedair.com. And have a good one until then. And remember, read a book, okay? Read a book.
Read.